In the past 6 weeks, I can see improvement and growth in my speeches. In my introduction and conclusion, I think they became more effective as I kept practicing with them and more involved that I put myself into that. Such as in my introduction speech, I usually start off with a question or a background knowledge before I get into my main points. And for my conclusion, after hitting the main points, I relate my topic to the outside world and how it is relatable to our society to make sure my audience know that what I'm saying right now is more effective and relatable. Such as my informative speech, I talked about COVID-19, and my persuasive speech, I talked about standardized testing and how it was measuring us students differently. In the process of preparing my speech, I use a format to make sure it's very organized and structured. I use transition as a hint to know that I need to go to the next topic or the next point of my speech. I feel like without transition, it wouldn't be easy to follow through. In the beginning of my speech, while I started talking, it took me a moment to make my speech more easy to follow through. For example, I can remember what my outline looks like, but when I'm presenting in front of my audience, I can remember that my outline has disappeared in my head, that I need to go through something else. With some practice of what I want to say, it was capable to let my audience to follow through my speeches. In the first two of my speeches, I didn't really rely on my note cards, and I made a lot of eye contacts with my audience. But with my last speech, I wasn't too comfortable of my topic and did rely on my note card, which wasn't good. I felt like as a speaker, if you want the audience to listen to you and be more motivated and paying attention to your speech, I feel like for a speaker, they need to be more comfortable with your topic and be motivated to talk, because if you're not motivated to talk, the audience wouldn't be really paying attention to your speech. Next, my vocal characteristics. I felt like in the beginning I spoke quietly because I was so nervous, but as I kept talking and got more comfortable as I was talking through my speech, my voice became more louder and more reasonable. Verbal fillers, I use them a lot. I can admit that. I just used like a bunch of times earlier, but I try to avoid them by pacing myself and pause. I know that using the word isn't as professional or good, at least. For the next part, the time requirement, I felt like I did a pretty good job with time requirement. I made sure during my outlines and when I'm preparing for my speeches, I can set up different hints that, like, okay, if I say this word or say this paragraph of the next point of my speech, that I'm in like the right zone of my time limit. Also, how I can improve my time limit to focus on before I start my speech or go to my audience to like actually hit record. I usually practice my speech at least 20 times before I start to make sure that I'm in a great ballpark for my speeches and making sure that everything is okay. So in conclusion, during looking back to my other speeches, I can see growth in them, which I'm really happy about, because I know when I first started here, I was really nervous of how I'm going to improve. But learning different skills and helping me out with this really improved how I present my speeches to people. But I just want to say thank you so much for listening in. Well, bye-bye.